this same logic that had been applied to deal with interest rate risk was all of a sudden being applied to deal with credit risk. And so the bonds now were tranched for a different reason. It was because the mortgages on the other side were really dicey. Everybody knew some of them might go bad. So how do you slice them up so some are riskier, so we can be less uncertain about the risk we're taking when we buy these bonds? And the answer was, well, we'll tranche them in, and the first slice suffers the first credit losses, and then above that the next credit losses. And at the top tier of this bond they're protected. 40% of these mortgages have to go bad before they're touched at all. And so the top tier would be AAA rated, and then below that AA and single A and triple B, and then below that below investment grade. Well, so Eisman looks at these things and he says, all right, I don't understand this. He said, I don't understand why, first off, why there's $1 trillion something of these loans being made, and so much of them end up being rated AAA. That all these investors are buying this stuff AAA. I know the loans are not good, probably not good loans. And he sees that what they've done is, and this is where this is the power of a global idea, because this was an idea that is going to sink a lot of countries. That they had looked at they had taken from the original bond. They had said, okay, there's a piece of this bond that is going to go bad if more than 6% of the mortgages in the portfolio don't default, or they default. The triple B slice. We're going to take huge amounts of that stuff, just the triple B slice, put it into another bond, which we're going to call a collateralized debt obligation, a CDO. And if we put enough of it together, and we can show the ratings agencies that, yeah, individually they're all dodgy loans, but they're not related to each other, because some are in Florida, and some are in California, and some are in Nevada, and some of them have these FICO scores, and some of them have these FICO scores. Yeah, some of them are low documentation, but some of them actually have documentation. They're diversified in various ways. That the idea is this: it's diversiphilia. The idea that if you put all these things together and they're diversified, the risk, they're not correlated. That it's not that you can reduce the risk. You can reduce the risk. And so in this new pile, and these are essentially, you're looking at the worst of the worst mortgage loans, and it's piled up into one big pot, the worst of the worst mortgage loans. The ratings agency said, well, we know because it's diversified that the losses are only, that we're not expecting, they won't all go bad. So we're going to say that 55% of them are AAA rated, because we really can't see any scenario in which more than 45% of them would default. And Eisman looks at this, and he thinks, this is insane. I mean, this is absolutely insane. That essentially, he can see that if housing prices in America, that all of these loans, every single one of them, are premised on housing prices going up. Because if the people can't repay it, they just sell the house, they refi. So if housing prices go down, they all go bad. And we're talking about $1 trillion in hundreds and hundreds of billions of putatively AAA securities. So he thinks this couldn't be right. He has a thought process that's actually a bit like Billy Beane looking at baseball players. He says, the world can't be that screwed up. And so he calls Moody's and Standard & Poor's. And he says, I'm just trying to understand how these worst of the worst subprime mortgage loans end up being AAA rated. And I mean, I just want to see what happens if, you gave it the rating. I want to see how you, in your model, you deal with what happens if housing prices in America stay flat. No, they don't go up. Or they go down. And the guy at Standard & Poor's tells him, I couldn't tell you that. He said, why? He says, because we don't have a place in the model to put a negative number. The model did not have the ability to even ask the question, what happens if housing prices go down?